Hi everyone, welcome back to the Good Morning Marketers podcast. My name's Aisha and I'm joined with Josh Bean today. So Josh, why don't you introduce yourself for the people?
My name's Josh. I'm a digital marketing exec for Mitchell & Stones. Bit of background about me. I've only recently entered the marketing sphere. Mostly my background has been in broadcast television, media production. That's what I did my degree in. I spent 5 years after graduation working for various major broadcasters, doing all manner of jobs, whether that was filming, editing, project managing, producing, a bit of everything really. I was a one-man band. So what I actually am is hard to say, but I do know I have quite a different range of skills.
Yeah, I'd say that when it comes to like content creation, things like that, you've got you've got a lot of knowledge.
Yeah, it's hard to measure, isn't it? In terms of in things like content and creativity, it's hard to measure and just say like, yeah, this person's. You just know if someone's good or capable at doing it, and some people just don't have the brain for it.
Yeah.
But I like thinking of creative ways to come up with solutions to problems, whether that be for commissioners, clients. Obviously, the actual challenges faced are very similar on a day-to-day basis. I'll go into it a little bit more, but yeah, this will be interesting to kind of talk about how maybe people are more suited to marketing than maybe they think if they haven't considered it as a career before. So yeah, let's get into it.
Okay, so I think let's start with uni. So what made you want to study that at uni? Did you always know that you sort of wanted to work in that field, or?
Yeah, so even pre-uni, I'd decided through GCSEs I'd chosen to take media, and I followed that through my A-levels as well. I did media and film with sociology at college, and I knew, albeit I didn't know exactly where I'd fit in, I knew that I wanted to enter that realm when I did get to university, just because I enjoy kind of deconstructing media practices, figuring out how it works, kind of the psychology behind media, how they target people, that sort of thing. So I wasn't so much on the actual practical side before university. It was more theory-based, like writing blogs, things like that, case studies and things, I suppose. But I did a couple of small projects before going to uni where it was small video things, and I actually realised that I really enjoyed that aspect of it and having the input and creative control on the day and being able to see finished products of things from the initial idea. I really enjoy that process.
Yeah. When I was in sixth form, I took film, geography and production arts. Geography is a bit rogue. Not sure. They don't really tie all in together, but just thought, yeah, all right. And production arts and film really tied in together. But I always wanted to do media because I saw that they had that marketing element to it. But film, as soon as I sort of told my film studies teachers that I was going to go into marketing, they were like, oh, yeah. I feel like there is a real crossover.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, in the context of making a film, having a film made from beginning, middle and end, there's a lot of different aspects to being a filmmaker working in the film industry. A lot of people just assume it's going to be going out with a camera, writing the scripts yourself, kind of getting an idea picked up. But there's a lot of processes as well that support anything being made. So if you're making a project that people ultimately want people to see, you have to have a strategy as to how you're going to get it out there. A lot of the time, especially when you're just starting out or you're at a smaller label or you're a self-shooter sort of person, you don't have any real budget for creating awareness. And you have to be clever in thinking, how can I employ kind of free avenues or low-cost avenues in generating a bit of buzz and hype around my film. And when you don't have all of the resources that some of the major studios and big houses do, having people with the brain power to be able to navigate that is so important. The creatives necessarily won't see value in it. They just want their film to be made and the other people handle the bits and pieces, but there are entire teams and lots of money spent on the marketing of films, and in some instances half of the overall cost of a film can end up just being on the marketing itself.
Yeah, we spoke about it on a different podcast episode, but even like, for an example, one that's come to mind is the Barbie movie that's going to be coming out in 2 months now.
I'm excited.
I'm very excited as well. I think most people in the office are excited. But like even that, like lots of marketing around that. I'm trying to think of other films, but honestly, most films have huge marketing budgets, huge marketing push. And yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of interesting examples. I think a couple that spring to mind specifically are back when the last Batman trilogy, I suppose, was released, the Christopher Nolan trilogy, The Dark Knight and so on. They used a lot of online marketing for that. So one of their campaigns, which was actually really successful, is they created a website for it. A lot of films have a website. You can go and find details, release dates and stuff. But they created a website which was set up as if it was by the Gotham Police Department. And it was almost as if you had access to case files on criminals and kind of headshots and things like that. And within all of the assets they were putting up, there were clues where if you were able to stitch them all together, it was actually able to tell you who the main villain was going to be in the upcoming film. And it was sort of like a treasure hunt / mystery puzzle thing. And just small things like that just creates massive engagement and gets people talking about it. And it's quite underrated, but that would have cost a very small amount of money. It's not the same as like getting a Super Bowl commercial slot or something like that.
That's cool though. I feel like I feel like that's more impactful sometimes, because you're allowing people to actually be in on it, like there's a real community there. Whereas like, sure, not anyone, but people can pay for a slot at the Super Bowl, like you said, but it has to be executed so well, and you still don't really have that sort of that in with people. You're
still being marketed to ultimately is the I think the element of self-discovery is engaging, because it actually gets people not only thinking critically about the upcoming release, but also they'll tell their friends about it. They'll try and work in it as teams. There's ultimately a competition element. Everyone wants to be the first one to crack what's going on. Essentially that lends itself really well to social media presence and shareability. It becomes a competition for them. Another film I can think of as having a great online marketing campaign for low money was Cloverfield, which came back, I think it was out 2008 time, so similar time to Batman. But even though it wasn't so directly linked to the actual content of the film, there was no big reveal or anything like that. Cloverfield's kind of a disaster film, Godzilla-esque. Creature emerges from the sea, terrorizes New York City instead of Japan, or the old Godzillas were made. But what they did that was quite cool is they drip-fed news and newsletters from the perspective of a Japanese oil drilling company. So they set up a company site you'd expect for, BP or Shell or whatever, but they were giving progress updates on a project they were completing off of the coast. And then the updates all went dark. They said they'd found something mysterious, and then radio silence. And then in the week afterwards that they were all dated, the Cloverfield film picks up. So it kind of builds all of the lore around how maybe this monster emerged, answers some questions as to what's ultimately a mystery, and just I think that's a really nice way to lead into the release of a film, and that was incredibly successful. It had no budget whatsoever. I'm sure it made over $100 million.
Wow. And yeah, it's crazy what you can do with so little. You just have to have a creative mind and just put the spin on it, and it just works.
Definitely.
Yeah. But how did you sort of make the move into marketing, into the industry?
Yeah, so it was a big career change. A lot of people tend to ask me why I ever chose to leave what they perceive to be such a glamorous job before. Spoiler alert, it's not as glamorous as it looks.
Tell the people.
No, it's when you get to a green room and you see a little buffet table, plastic cups, you get water and little warm sandwich buffets, and you realise actually maybe it's not the glitz and glam that I thought it was. But anyway, like most people in that industry, coronavirus was massive. So I'd been in it for about 5 years, and I just tipped to assistant producer, which was a big deal for me. I'd been working on that for a couple of years to get to that level, because at that point you're kind of considered a seasoned pro, someone that's more respected than maybe you would be at runner level. You get more creative control. But I just taken a job when coronavirus hit, and I was only a couple of weeks into a 6-month contract, which for me was a big amount of security. 6 months is a big deal. But within 2 days of it really breaking the news that people started getting infected here, I was travelling on my way home to go out and get ready for a shoot in Leicester the next day, and I got a call from my executive producer saying it was cancelled, without any real explanation why, and to go home and await further instructions sort of thing. And within a couple of days, everyone on a freelance contract at my company was let go with immediate notice, which is just the nature of the game. It's the contracts you take, and a lot of people accept that that's how it works. But it was a bit of an eye-opener in that I'd already maybe had question marks over long-term security and how viable it was going to be for me to stay within the industry. And I think I was more just having fun with it and seeing how far I could go by the end. But then after that, I realised that actually I need to get serious about what maybe I can carve a long-term career out of. Marketing in itself, it hadn't been something that had crossed my mind. I had friends that studied it while I was at uni with them and stuff, and I have a sense of what it is, what the purpose of marketing is. But what I maybe hadn't thought of, what hadn't occurred to me, was just how intrinsically linked they can be with running social media campaigns for big shows, Britain's Got Talent, this, that or the other, or handling online presence and inquiries from the general public. Essentially, how you present yourself in that online space and how you market the company, what they represent, all of that is very similar to, even though this is working on behalf of a client to ultimately generate revenue, marketing, the same thing applies in that they want as many people as possible to watch the show and engage with the brand and share it. So a lot of the time when it comes to kind of creative choices, strategies, how you manage projects, having the input to basically help the client along and demonstrate your expertise, a lot of that really lends itself well to this sort of position. So yeah, I've been a digital marketing executive now for about 5 weeks. And I'm not a finished product. I'm learning bits and pieces all the time. But I think what's important for people to consider, people who have experience working in a creative mind, they can do it if they wanted to. If they've never thought about marketing, it's definitely a viable option. There's a lot of crossover. Yes, there are some bits you need to learn, but I think a lot of the time, particularly with Mitchell & Stones, they hire on people first and then kind of skill sets second. And if there are gaps, they're prepared to train you and develop you. Ultimately, that's better for them. You've got a long-term interest in staying with them. And I think it's a good place to start when you know that the culture is going to be correct. And we can learn the bits we don't know as we go along.
Yeah, it's all about having sort of a willingness to learn and just being open-minded, I suppose. If you're easy to work with, you're going to be, everything's going to fall into place, essentially.
Definitely. And it's very rare that I think you go into a job and they expect a fully finished product, unless you've kind of got 20 years experience and you're going in for a middle or higher management position. But especially now, I think there's a lot more focus just from employers in general in developing their staff and keeping talent, retaining people. So yeah, while it may have been a bit daunting walking into my first client meeting and not knowing what SEO stood for example, or I'm picking these bits up and you've just got to go with it and learn along the way. But I think it's been a really good transition so far. Yeah.
Well, I also think that, you say that, but not everyone is amazing at every aspect of marketing. So even you coming into this process and even myself when I first joined, I'm starting to find the areas that I am most successful in, where my strengths lie. And if you haven't already, you're going to see it very soon too. So, I think it's very rare that someone is a really successful and really good at all aspects of marketing, because there are so many. Everyone's got their strengths. And I think what's really great about Mitchell & Stones is that everyone's got different strengths. And there's always someone that's sort of like the house expert of something. So there's always that as well.
Definitely. It's a collaborative environment. And I think something that's definitely utilised well here, which a lot of companies aren't that comfortable with, is feedback. So I know from